Well, good morning, and it is a fine morning out there this morning. Plenty of sunshine around. There's going to be scattered clouds throughout the day, but no threat of rain until quite late afternoon. So a day to get out and enjoy. 18 degrees thereabouts, possibly nudging 19, and all in all, the wind is quite low. It's fresh, but not the sort that's going to knock my hat off. Keith Hayes with Mirador Television, and hopefully we will be with you through to about 11 o'clock or so this morning. Later on in Affairs from the Heart, because we broadcast from the White Hart each morning on a weekday, we will have the chap who's organised Lewis Speakers Festival, which comes up this weekend. It starts tomorrow and it goes on Saturday and Sunday. There's an interesting chap because he's put together quite a star-studded list of speakers about their various books, and very well worthwhile going to. It's £12.50 to attend a talk, but those talks are by first-class people and exactly the sort of thing for Lewis. So that's the Lewis Speakers Festival 2022. And that will come at about 10 o'clock in the second part of our morning program, Affairs from the Heart. For the moment, this is Break an Egg, looking at some of the things that we have to face when we climb out from between the sheets. And there's unfortunately a whole clatter of headlines, front pages that are not of our making, not of our liking. It is a pretty poor day, I'm afraid. The zero growth in 2023 and £100 to fill the family car, both are bad news, and particularly since OECD says, the Organization of Economic European, the Organization for Economic Development in Europe, I think it is, yeah. But it's a forecaster, and what it warns is that apart from Russia, we will be the worst growth in the whole of Europe. So that's not very comforting, is it, at all? Okay, so the headline in the Financial Times, UK growth set to be the worst in G20, apart from Russia. And perhaps the worst thing there is that part of the reason is high taxation. And since we are being governed by the party that likes to boast that it's the party of low taxation, that's a bit of a frightening thing too, because God only knows what it would be like if the party that's known as high taxes gets in. You cannot buy your way out of this sort of trouble, chaps. The Mirror, £100 to fill the family car. It crows, of course, as it would. You can't wait for disasters of this sort to occur. So they can blame the Tories. It's a point of view, but I don't find it terribly helpful. The Daily Telegraph, the price of filling up the average car hits £100. Well, they are hitting the same note. In fact, almost the same headline. So the right and the left in tune with what the message that they want to send. But the Telegraph says the price increase in fuel is particularly petrol, there was a fuel duty cut of 5% announced in March, and that has been virtually wiped out by the soaring prices once again, because we don't have the North Sea oil fields anymore. We don't have. We're not a domestic producer. We can't set the prices. We are subject to Saudi Arabia and the Americans, and particularly to the Ukraine war. The Guardian, fuel costs surge and dire economic forecasts shatter the PM's hope of a reset. said that Downing Street had decided to reset their priorities to look after the average man. But this latest news just runs a hole right through it. I suppose that's right. The Times, Johnson to let benefit claimants buy homes. Now, here's an unusual initiative, one that I'm not sure that makes any difference to me, but nonetheless, it can to. I'm going to pour a little coffee, a little extra coffee. I got a little left here, and hopefully it's warm enough. Yes. So those people on benefits can now use their benefit money to buy their homes rather than pay rent. It's an interesting concept. But I personally wonder why we have this great compulsion for everybody to own their own home. I mean, it's an obsessive thing, really. It doesn't matter as long as you've got a decent roof over your head. Difficult to say. But anyway, he thinks that will be very popular, that your benefit money, the money to cover the cost of your roof over your head because you can't afford it otherwise, it should be used to being able to buy the roof over your head that you can't afford. The Daily Express. Now that is a promise. The PM vows to slash bills. What the Express, who has got used to dealing in sort of grouping things, says that there's a number of initiatives that the Conservatives are coming up with which will help slash our daily bills. I hope that they're right, but they do tend to fall over backwards to placate the government on anything it does. The rail strike passengers face a 6-day shutdown. The threatened rail strike, I think it's the 21st, 22nd, well, 21st, 23rd, 25th of June, which will be supplemented by the 22nd and the 24th, means that there'll be no rail travel at all. The RMT is determined to have a go at something, and has decided that the conditions under which rail workers work are not good enough, and that they need to be revised and so on. A step back in time, if you ask me, but still, everybody's got their own feel about this. No shame, says the Metro, and it is accusing RMT General Secretary Mick Lynch of having no shame about the disruption, which will actually cause a disruption to school exams, the Glastonbury Festival, an England cricket match, and saying he was saying we don't want to disruption for anyone, and that the disruption we're getting is not our fault. I mean, it's the government. It is, and that the RMT are probably the tip of the iceberg, as we'll now see all sorts of other unions coming out because they can see getting their way of raising the income at the same time tipping us into a recession because nobody can afford to do anything, particularly with £100 price tag on a family car full of petrol. You just have to be much more careful about where you're going to go and how many people you carry. Popping into the car to go down to the store with a single journey for a single person is probably going to have to be revised. Lawyers set to ground the first Rwanda flight. That's the Daily Mail. This is to do with the government's policy of putting illegal immigrants who come across the channel into 747s and flying them to Rwanda. And the idea does not sit well with the chattering classes of liberals. And so they are, as one expected, not only kicking up, but also threatening to get embargoes and so on and so forth via the courts. And I think some of those lawyers should think twice about where they stand in the scheme of things in Britain, if in fact many of them have been born somewhere else, let's put it that way. The Star, good old Star. Anxious archaeology students warn they might see old bodies. The Star, it's where they dig up these esoteric stories, I have no idea. But the Star, it says, I want mummy on its front page, MUMMY. And essentially, what it's saying is um, that when you start to unwrap or cut into a mummy, is there is a human being in there, and that some of these students being asked to do this will go green and refuse to do it. I do remember the first time that I had to cut open a rat in the biology lab at university. Is thinking, oh my God, I have to watch this every day. But in fact, one of the rallying cries comes from my professor at the university in British Columbia. So I can't complain about that. Anyway, there's the dear old Star has got us into mummy stage. The Sun, Kelly to wed. Kelly Brook, it says, has now found her perfect man after a little dip in the Pacific. And the wedding pounds have been announced, and indeed that the Prime Minister has got his, and it's on the cardboard on the mantelpiece, ready to go. Well, that's the way that the papers look. Why don't we just let's see? It's 8:45 now, and time, I think, for our calming influence, the first of the morning. Now it is that's the lovely park, isn't it? I've got to do one or two things. Right. Okay, I'll do that for the moment. That is the park in the centre of Lewes, historic park, but also a lovely hiding place, a place to go and get away from it all, to sit in a windshield and enjoy the sun, enjoy the park. No ball games are allowed, so you're not going to get things running over your tummy as you lie there unexpectedly. But a good place to kick off the day if you want to feel nice and comfortable, and you want to enjoy the day ahead. That's where to go. Now, let's see whether let's just look for a moment at Lewes from a different angle, shall we? Yes, why not? Because it's always good to see things from a different perspective. So here we go. Well, looking at that is a nice, refreshing way of looking at Lewis. And I was just ruminating while that was being shown that we do live in a very, very nice town. But we do have haunting the downs around us, the main headquarters of the Grinch. Our high street is a shame at Christmas time. It absolutely just a disaster compared to anything else in the in the country. And now, during the Jubilee, yes, the town council made £15,000 available for a decent firework display. Very good. But generally speaking, there was no great pomp and circumstance about our town. And considering its history, one would have expected perhaps at least lots of bunting, lots of suggestions that we are what we are. We are an important cog in the scheme of things, in the transition to a new type of society. That as the county town and as the administrators of the county town, that much more wasn't done to have a demonstrable face of celebration when the rest of the world was going absolutely crackers. There you are, the Grinch has got us, and we have got to pray ourselves loose from him, I'm afraid, before we can go much further. Right now, I've been through the papers. We've taken a nice little trip down to Grange Park. And I think that perhaps what we need to do now is let's see what we've got to show you this morning, because we've been going back over things that we've done in the past, and there's been a lot of good reaction, and people have said, gosh, yes, remind us. So let's remind you. This was the Scene in Sussex program on it says just the 27th. Let's hope that it's the 27th of November. Well, I made a muck of that, didn't I? This is what I was proposing to tell you. And this is the way that we used to do the weather. I've forgotten some of these things as well. So hopefully you'll get a bit of a kick out of something past.
Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way. Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Well, good morning, and my usual rant. Just let me remind you that this day, Thursday, and also tomorrow, people are collecting or using coffee mornings for Macmillan, the well-known cancer charity, and if you can support that, I would urge you to. My own wife, my late wife, had breast cancer and managed to beat it with the help of Macmillan. So I'm very keen on this charity, and tomorrow, Friday, we'll actually be broadcasting from Lewes Station, where the station staff, along with my favourite runaway bistro cafe, will be raising money for Macmillan. So don't often make appeals like this on this programme, but this one is special, and I hope you'll join us tomorrow when we try to have a bit of fun down at the station supporting Macmillan for the morning. I escaped jail yesterday. Give credit where credit is due. Lewes District Council, with whom I've got the argument, responded when I attended court. I never actually did get into the magistrates' court at all. They withdrew the summons before that happened, and for once I had a decent sort of chap to talk to who listened to what I had to say. Customer First, I don't know whether he's part of Customer First, but Customer First, when they just use email and so on, don't have a clue. Not a clue. So I'm not being very forgiving for them for that. But yesterday they had a chap who was willing to listen to the case, decided that it could be resolved, and is trying hard to resolve it. And between us, let's see if we can come to some conclusion. But at least I was quite impressed with what LDC did yesterday in that particular instance. They get some PR help now, might be okay. Incidentally, one of the strange things I find is everybody wants a password nowadays. We're absolutely paranoid about passwords, and I can't remember them all, and I don't really feel like going through the process of keep on starting a new one for everything I look at. But you go to Lewes District Council's website, and it tells you, here are some press releases, and here's what we're doing, and so on and so forth. And you press on the piece that you're interested in reading, and you have to go and fill in, get a password and all the rest of it. Well, we're past that, I think. I'm 78, and even I realise that most people nowadays just want to tap and be done with it. Yeah, some people are doing the finger thing, and some people are paying for their coffee with their phone and so on. I haven't got quite that far, but nonetheless, one tap and that should be it. And somehow, somewhere, one of the brains that gets behind all these things, even if they're security conscious, have got to do away with this password for absolutely everything. I do understand, I think, that there is a way of getting one password for everything that you do, but I suppose that's slightly dangerous. But the other thing is I don't quite understand how to do it, and until somebody explains, then I urge, let's do something about not having passwords for absolutely everything that we do. We're having passwords to breathe next. I'm just keeping an eye here because I try hard to keep to 5 minutes for this particular rant. So my rant is that I'm not in jail, that I'm discussing things with the council at long last. Mind you, I asked them last July, if we could get together and have a chat. That fell on deaf ears. The top brass aren't that interested in talking to people like me. Oh my goodness me, no. But nonetheless, we seem to be getting somewhere with a resolution, and that's a result, I suppose. All right, so tomorrow I shall see you down at the station. The trains aren't really getting any better. Mine was late 15 minutes getting into Victoria the other morning. When was that? Yesterday, the day before. There's a bit of chaos in the evening, and nobody knew which platform for a little while that the train was going to come in on, and then when it did, it was jam-packed within seconds. The train that I used to take at 8:45 in the morning, which was a lovely train, used to be an 8-coacher, sometimes a 12-coacher. Sometimes it was a 4 and an 8, and it joined up in Lewis. Now it's just 4 coaches, and of course you're fighting for a seat, and that's the sort of thing that the train companies now need to look at. Is if they haven't got enough coaches or trains or whatever, don't put them on the schedule, but it's just making life miserable, and they're getting the flack for it. Okay, short rant this morning, and there we are. I'm a free man. Woo! And I'd worn my Russian hat just in case I got thrown into the gulag, but we'll see you tomorrow, and at the moment the weather is looking pretty good, so perhaps we'll have a fine weekend, at least one where the heat will work up a thirst. Till then, toot flip.
Right. Okay, that ended a bit faster than I thought. But that's a scene in Sussex, and that's the sort of thing that programs that we did a few years ago. And I like to think that we will get back to doing some of those programs. Well, we will, and we are planning to. We are recovering, and it's taking a long time to recover from the pandemic. We weren't allowed to have people in the studio. There was no advertising or sponsorship available. We actually clung onto our lifeline. All I can say, all I can boast is, imperfect though it was, is like the Windmill Theatre in London during the Blitz. We never closed. We were always there. There was always a Mirador presence. All right, it's 9:14 now. And again this morning, we're ready, I think, to look at the potential of summer. I just showed you what we used to do in terms of the weather. It's strange enough, even a little thing like that takes time to put together. But all I can tell you at the moment is that outside this morning it's going to reach 18, 19 degrees. There's going to be some cloud around, but it will be intermittent. So a fair amount of sunshine and no rain threat until late afternoon. So a day to savor. And it's now 9:15, so time to get out. Let's see. It is, as I say, it's 9:15. Before we call this session to a close, let us just see if there are one or two other little things that we can share that we've done in the past, but that might be appropriate to now. Well, there's one I showed yesterday, and I think you might enjoy again, is particularly since we've got a train strike coming up. Here we go with a ghost train.
Many people find commuting by train tiresome. But one of the pleasures of taking a train to London is that it passes through some of the most beautiful countryside in the UK. None more so than the view of the countryside as the line approaches Clayton Tunnel, just north of Brighton. The tunnel is the longest on the line, at 1.25 miles, running under the South Downs. It's unusual because the entrance is not the usual railway brick. It is instead designed to look like the gateway to a castle. On top is a cottage built for the railway's lightkeeper in 1849. The tunnel itself was opened in 1841 and the cottage added later. Idyllic. But after 1861, it became a nightmare, or at least for those who believe in ghostly goings-on. In August of that year, a night train left Brighton, travelling north to London. Partway through the tunnel, it stopped at what it thought was a danger signal from the lightman. The engine driver was correct. The railway official had indeed given a danger signal, but the train had rushed past him before pulling up. Thinking the train had cleared the tunnel, the unfortunate lightman gave the all clear to a following train. And it slammed into the back of the first train in the dark, killing 23 and injuring 176 more. It was the worst ever accident on the line. And people walking on the downs over the underground passage have reported hearing the screams of the passengers as the trains piled into each other. The line is now also a direct line from Lewes. I've travelled through that tunnel 1,000 times. I've never heard a scream other than the screech of the wheels and brakes. But I've never walked over the downs at that point either. And I turned down an invitation to stay in the cottage overnight. In fact, I get tense each time I go into the tunnel, knowing what had happened more than 165 years ago. But my fellow passengers carry on reading their newspapers, obviously oblivious to both the tragedy and the ghosts. I could sometimes scream at them. The ghosts of Clayton Tunnel. Eerie. Bloody eerie.
Well, I thought that little story, there are two things that crop up. One is that the ghost of Clayton Tunnel, it could possibly have triggered a ghost train story written by Charles Dickens, because he frequented this part of the world. He was well known in Brighton and Hove. There is some evidence that he was in the Ouse Valley for a while. And certainly he was amongst the crowd who went to see Beachy Head, Seaford Head, blown up to try and divert the River Ouse to make Seaford the major port on the south coast again. The blowing up of the cliff worked very well, but the diversion didn't work because the rocks, the cliffs are chalk. They dissolved within about 2 or 3 days and failed to make the change and to divert the river. But Charles Dickens was like, I think it was some 15 or 16,000 people turned up to see this big blowing up in Seaford. I actually was down there about 2 weeks ago and taking a look at that particular spot, and very interesting it is. But the other thing is, and rather more drastically, is we are now facing a rail strike. Mick Lynch of the RTE union says, well, there is no time for a good strike, or no good time for a strike, so we are going to call it anyway and cause absolute mayhem. It just so happens that the Glastonbury Festival is that weekend, where a lot of people use the train to get there, that there is a England cricket match. People use the train to get there. And generally speaking, is we have a number of issues or a number of events going on where people would use the train to get to, and it's going to disrupt all of them. And he doesn't care as long as he is causing mayhem. And let's face it, I've got to look after my members. His members are pretty damn looked after because we've given in to him year after year after year. It's just a chance to hit the government when it's having its particularly bad time. And its leader is a leader, I may say, for whom Mick Lynch would be really quite worried. What he hopes is that he will get a more amenable leader who will bow to his will without them calling a strike. It's really quite eerie, quite amazing. Anyway, it's 9:25, and just a reminder of where we're broadcasting from, that we are Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, and that we like to chat to you as much as we possibly can. Let's just remind you of the logo that we use, or did use, for a long time. I rather like it still. I'm going to make sure that we use it as much as we can. Let's go on that again because we missed the beginning. All right, we take a short break now, and we'll be back in about 5 to 10 minutes with Mark Rattray at 10 o'clock. Mark is the organizer of the Lewes Festival, the Speakers Festival, in which he brings a glittering array of speakers to All Saints Centre over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so that they can talk about both the books that they've written, but also their life experiences and their expertise. And you can go and listen to them live. Mark will be with me to explain who will be on, and we hope that we've already got one speaker who will come on Mirador on Friday, and we hope that we might get another one to compliment him. We'll see how things go. But nonetheless, that is in the next hour when we do Affairs from the Heart. This has been well, this has been affairs from the heart as well. Because we did do break an egg earlier. So hopefully we are in well, we're in a nice, gentle situation now, despite the bad news. I'm feeling sort of buoyant today because the sun is shining and it's lovely out there. Absolutely lovely. So let's say toodle pip for the moment, and we'll see you in 5 or 10 minutes.